I think about all the places that a CEO could invest dollars in to try to get a return. $4,000 for renting a studio for a day and a couple $1,000s in flights and dinners and stuff is like significantly less than some of the other things we invest in. But on, I think that's like the hard thing about hard things, right? Is like the
Mm.
things that work the most are the hardest to measure. And frankly, like it's the scariest part about being at a company that's growing.
If you pay attention, like LinkedIn will tell you what's important to it. And by that, I mean, like, just recently they started showing you how many impressions you're getting on comments, which is a cue to me that comments are a very important part of the algorithm now.
It is now easier than ever to distribute messages about those new companies. Thanks, Clay, right? Which,
Mhm.
if you combine these two big forces that are happening in the market, it means that there has never been more noise than ever in the channels that businesses are trying to play in.
All right, before we dive in, you're listening to the Executive Brand Podcast with me, your host, Thormeier. Each week, I sit down with top B2B CEOs, executive, and founders to break down their playbooks. If you've not yet, it would really help if you subscribe or follow the show because it helps us get on better guests and create better content for you guys. All right, let's dive in. All right, my two guests are Jess Cook and Joshua Perk, who are the VP of Marketing and co-founder CEO of Vector, respectively. Vector, I mean, you guys can correct me here and use whatever newest framing you guys use. To me, it's kind of marketing signal platform. That's how I think about it. That allows you to reveal the people who visit your website, engage with your ads, and then target your ads on a contact level. Pretty cool stuff. Josh started the company in 2023 with his co-founder, Nick. And you guys are now 20 employees. Is that roughly directionally
Yeah,
correct?
I think
Yeah.
2023 was my last count.
The reason why I wanted to have Jess and Joshua on is because a couple of reasons. I think signal-based marketing is all the hype right now. Lots of people are doing it. You guys are right in the mix of it. And so I'm definitely excited to dive into some of your guys' playbooks and how you guys are using Vector at Vector. You guys crush it LinkedIn. You have 50,000 combined followers and you're quite active there. I enjoy your content. And then the podcast obviously stands out. You guys run a podcast called This Meeting Could Have Been a Podcast. I love the name because I think a lot of people who are marketers have felt exactly that before. But first question, you guys hosted your first live podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
What are the takeaways? How did it go? Will you do it again?
I think the main takeaway is that antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication is a good thing.
Okay.
You
We,
had to be there. You had to be there.
Okay,
No,
fair enough.
it went great. For one, I don't think Josh was as nervous as me. I was incredibly nervous about it. I think we've built this really great podcast, and I wanted this live recording to feel as great as the rest of kind of the suite of work. And so yeah, it felt like there was a lot on the line, but I think it went great. It just felt like a fun gathering of a bunch of marketing people who were like, the chat was on fire. The questions, the Q&A was amazing, which is I feel very rare in a
Hmm.
virtual event like that. It felt a lot like the podcast. We did our very best to make it feel exactly like one of the episodes, including kind of the intro
Yeah, I
music and
saw
the
that. Yeah.
outro
Hmm.
and our kind of backgrounds felt like we were on set. So yeah, I thought it was fun. Well, I after it finished yesterday, I was like, okay, we can do more of those. I feel better now. But yeah, a little nerve-wracking to go live. So kudos to you for doing this because
Oh
it's
my God, it's
a
still.
lot.
Are you gonna do one a month now, or what's the idea?
No,
Jess, are you signing up for that one a month we're doing?
no, no, no. No, that's going to
No,
be a nice little bonus episode thing that we bring out
I love
yeah.
it.
We,
on
we we
YouTube.
did Jess had this great idea to do like a special one. I think she named it like this meeting could have been a kickoff or this kickoff could have been a
Yep.
podcast or something like
Yep.
that. So we did one just a special live one just for the beginning of the year. But to Jess's point, our podcast was so special because the concept of it, if you can't tell from the name, is you're dropping in on our one-on-ones, right? So it's this very like intimate but like silly and funny show. And so when she brought me this concept of like we're gonna do it live with other people, I was like, man, can we do that live? Like it doesn't really scale, but
Hmm.
she crushed it, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, I put the link here in the chat if you guys want to check it out. Thank you for turning on the camera, Michael. Kenna, I very sadly missed it, but did you give positive affirmations?
We did kind of, yes, we scripted those. We stared right into the camera and delivered them. It was just as awkward as they are on the actual episode. So it was great.
Allison
Jess, give
said I
yours.
was there. It was
Oh yeah.
great. I too am fueled by Lexapro. So is every marketer I know. Oh my God. You guys have all kinds of inside jokes going. Now I feel sad for not being there.
It's on demand now, Finn. You can get it right now.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that was what was interesting about it is I think this probably goes to your content and your community is like Jess has built something so special with our community where we don't even have to talk about Vector, right? It just felt like 90 friends just getting together and talking about the antidepressants we're on to deal with like crazy CEOs and the pipeline goals that they give us and it was awesome.
Says the CEO.
Yeah, very
They're the worst.
self-aware. Very self-aware.
Apparently, I cause mass depression.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, fair. So you had 93 live people join. That's incredible.
Yeah, we had over 200 registrants, which was really exciting because this is the first time we had
That's
done
an
this.
incredible show up rate.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was really excited by that.
Yep.
We just invested in Goldcast toward the end of last year,
Yep.
and we wanted to really, that's one of our goals this year is like, let's really build this muscle of kind of the live virtual events. Let's use Goldcast to do that. And it went great. So now I think like we're warming that muscle up, and I think I don't know if we'll do a whole lot more podcasts like that. We may do one here or there, but I do want to do just kind of like virtual events like that bring people together and get us talking about specific topics that are top of mind for everyone right now.
I don't know if this was part of it, probably not, but one of the stories that I often think about is Alex Hormozi talks about it, one of the godfathers of organic content. And he talked about some event he was at, and it was for online creators, influencers. And they basically walked out on stage, and he was interested at how much applause each person would get.
Mm.
And his analysis was basically the people who got the least applause were the short form content creators, people who exclusively create TikToks and YouTube Reels. The next level up were people who create long form video content, so YouTubers who put out 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute videos. And by far the absolute most applause got Twitch streamers. And his analysis of that was, number one, you consume just way more content of a live streamer because you might actually watch them for 6 hours. Right, if you're a teenager. And then the second thing is the live component. You're there with them when they like make a mistake or they eat their food, like you're there with them. And so like the connection is so much more, and that made Hormozi this year invest into, I think he's going live every week now or whatever, or every day.
That's
because he decided that long form live streams are the best way to build trust, I guess. So
Fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's funny. We don't do obviously the normal podcast live, but I think because the content of it feels very raw and like you're in Jess's life and my life. Jess and I will go to like drive, like Exit Five's drive or whatever, and we'll have people that walk up to us and be like, they'll like interject into something we're talking about and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just feel like I know you guys." And we're like, "No, we feel like we know you too. Like you do know us."
Yeah.
yes.
So we are literally the same people. We are always this weird.
Yes, constantly.
Totally. Now, the first thing, to me, what you guys are doing like feels like a flywheel. There's the podcast that you do. I think it's a weekly episode, and then from there, obviously, you get clips that you guys often share on LinkedIn. You share other things too, but the clips is kind of a pillar there. And then I don't know, like how you guys then use that to validate certain messages or ads, and then track signals. But do you guys think about it as a flywheel? And if so, like what are the components in your head?
Yeah, it's a very top of funnel. We've been calling it there's lead magnets. We call this an awareness magnet for us. This is one of the major things that actually pull people in to our universe to even know who we are and then to understand
the podcast, or the LinkedIn, or both.
Well, the podcast, I think, was kind of what originated it, but really pull people in to understand who we are and then what Vector is. The podcast, funnily enough, like kind of spurred these caricatures of me and Josh that now live out on LinkedIn as well. And so I think like that has kind of become a flywheel that I don't think we expected when we started the podcast. I think when we started the podcast, it was like we just want to give people really good value and kind of be able to say the things that everyone wants to say to their CEO and wants to say to their head of marketing, but can't because they don't have that relationship. And we do. And we can say those things and we like just play off of it. We can be very honest with each other. So I think that's what people really liked about it. But then also that we're I don't know, we're pretty self-aware, we're pretty self-deprecating. And so I think people love that too. And so it started to play out on LinkedIn. And so I think people, yeah, like Josh said, they'll just come up to us and be like, we love everything you're doing. Like we've seen clips, we've seen the show, we see what's going on LinkedIn. It feels like its own little reality show that's kind of happening on a couple different platforms. But we also do like repurpose all of that stuff into newsletters and social content. It becomes blog posts. I'm trying to get good at YouTube and kind of figuring that whole thing out because that's a whole universe in itself.
For the podcast episodes or separately.
Exactly. Yeah. And just more discoverability. I think that's what the hope for the podcast has always been get more people to know who Josh and I are so that more people will know what Vector is.
I always tell people you should have a podcast mainly just because it's a no-brainer because you can invite people. Your format makes that kind of difficult. I don't think you guys had a guest on, right?
No.
So what you guys do is actually
guests.
much harder to execute, I would say.
Yeah, it's like it's almost the brilliance of it. It's hard to execute, right? Because from a content perspective, you can't just bring random folks on and have them talk about what they're working on. But I almost think that that's why it works, right? Because like we have nothing else to do but be real about the stuff we're actually working on, right? So like late in or middle of 2025, we went through a pivot, right? And so when Jess was creating season 2 of the podcast and we wrote down like what are the things we should talk about, it's like I guess we're gonna have to be honest and talk about the fact that we pivoted. And it made for like really entertaining content because it forces you to talk about things that other marketers and founders are probably experiencing as well.
So talk to me through the prep. How do you come up with the idea? How much like scripting, outlining do you do? How much is like literally in the moment improvising?
Jess, let me go first. Let me go first because mine's easy. I show up on set. That's my preparation. Jess, you go next.
Well, great job, Josh. Thank you for your contributions.
And then I take credit.
As you should, as the CEO should. We so it's funny. We film on set. And I fly down to Florida. Josh drives a couple hours to the studio, and we film 8 episodes over 2 days. So we take 8 changes of clothes, and we have all of our kind of notes and everything. Before we get there, I think the nice thing about each episode has like one topic, and it's always the title of it is always like Jess wants to start a podcast. Yep. Josh just went to an event and has tons of crazy ideas. Jess wants to hire an agency, right? So it's like we think of one thing that we've already done, we've made a decision on or worked through, and that becomes the episode. And so the only real scripting we do is everyone starts with kind of a skit to kind of bring you into the middle of the story. Hey, Josh, I really think that we need to bring out an agency. It's only going to be like $10,000 a month. Don't worry about it, and his reaction, right? And then it kind of kicks off the show. Yep. And like kind of mentioned earlier, we do this thing called positive affirmations. So we stare into the camera and we deliver like these really ridiculous, like, dear marketer, you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of like positivity in like a very awkward way. And those 2 things are really the only things that are scripted. Everything else we outline. We do sit down for a couple of hours before we go to record and we outline just like, these are the major points we want to hit and kind of the learnings and takeaways that we had during this project or during this thing that we worked on and that we want marketers to be able to walk away with.
So where my brain goes is I think this works because it's somehow you guys are leaning into something that's already there, right? Like the dynamic, the kind of character, they're kind of characters, but they're also not. Like it almost feels like it's just a slightly amplified version of what might maybe otherwise be going on anyway.
Yep.
So like someone else can't just do what you guys do. What was the aha moment where you were where you realize this is something that we can lean into that will allow us to do it in this format that will work, but it might not work for others?
I think there was like a collision of things that happened, right? So like before Jess was even thinking about running the podcast, we had already had this insight that the way we were marketing to our audience was unique, right? So like before Jess even joined the company and we were trying to build out the marketing function, I knew that like we market to marketers, and so we need to take advantage of this really special opportunity that like our audience happens to be the staff that will also market to them. And so, instead of following sort of common advice of getting a demand gen marketer
Hmm.
or a product marketer, we leaned really early into we want someone that can resonate with our audience. And so I think Dan at Exit 5 introduced me to Jess and said, "Hey, she's one of the best content marketers I've ever met." It just so happened she had already built an audience on her own, which wasn't a requirement, but certainly has helped from a distribution perspective. Um, and and so we've always just had like it's funny because our conversations, I think most CEO, VP of marketing conversations are like pipeline, demand gen. Ours have always felt more like a creative studio, right? Just
Yeah.
two really creative people just like riffing with each other on things. And I think we kind of naturally knew like there's something here. Like Josh is quirky, he doesn't mind getting on camera. Jess has already built an audience that's proven she's done this. And so we knew something was there. But Jess, maybe you can pick up the story because this podcast wasn't actually what the original podcast looked like at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we first started, I don't know, a month after I started, I was like, we need to do a podcast. Like, I could already tell there was this really good kind of chemistry between us as like coworkers and that people would really enjoy hearing us chat about these different topics. And the original concept was it was called Funnel Cake. And it was this idea of like just trying to like, what does the modern marketing engine look like when you're trying to bring people through the funnel?
Hmm.
And every time we sat down to like outline it, like, I had like this pit in my stomach. I was like, this doesn't feel right.
Fell
Like
off.
it felt like we kept going back to the product and talking about the product. And I was like, no one wants to hear about that.
Mhm.
And I finally came to the realization that like, after talking to friends and being like, if there was a podcast out there with a marketing leader and a CEO, what would you want to hear them talk about? And every single person responded to me with things that were basically on the agenda of our one-on-one. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, we should just do that. Um, so it took me a while to figure out like because I fully believe that like 50% of a great idea is just the name of it. And so I was like, this has to have an incredible name. So it took me a while to figure that out. But there was a day where I went to Josh and I was like, this podcast is not the right podcast. Give me 24 hours and I will come back to you tomorrow with the right podcast.
Mhm.
And I did. We figured it out. And we when we figured that out, it was like, this is it. This is really going to be good. And I think even when we got on set the first time and we went through that first episode, we were like, this is cool. This is going to be something really special and different.
Mhm.
I have two more questions on the podcast, and you guys listening here, if you feel like I'm going way too deep on the podcast, feel free to put something in the chat and I'll nudge into a different direction. I'm just following my curiosity here. One is, what was the conversation around making it live and in like in person in a studio? Because obviously that makes it quite more difficult
Yeah.
logistically. It also makes it more expensive. Why
Mhm.
not just like do this concept and do a Zoom call?
It's a great question. Again, everything we do is just a little bit different. And I think that was a piece of it. We wanted to be sitting side by side. We wanted it to feel like we were in a one-on-one kind of discussion. Um, it allowed us, I think, to feel more personal, like you are kind of sitting in a room with us, just chatting it up with some friends. And I think the content now, when you're scrolling through and it pops up, our set is kind of neon
Yeah.
lights. There's like a Pac-Man machine in the background. There's like
Yeah.
ghost decor everywhere like this. And I think it just stops people, right? It's different than two people on Zoom, which is also a great format. It works, but we just wanted to do something different because we do everything differently.
I love it.
When I think about all the places that a CEO could invest dollars in to try to get a return, I mean, $4,000 for renting a studio for a day and a couple $1,000s in flights and dinners and stuff is like significantly less than some of the other things we invest in. And I don't know why founders just get that ratio wrong all the time. Like they're willing to go higher. Like they'll drop $6,000 in clay credits to send like 10,000 cold emails that get like one response. But they're like, I can't put $4,000 into like flying us to Florida to record a podcast that like thousands of people will listen to. It just doesn't make sense.
Andrew, I'll get to your question. That brings me to my second follow-up on the podcast. What's the attribution? What's the ROI? What's the conversation around that? How do you
Yeah, Jess, what
guys...
is the ROI?
No, I think well, we can see it in the numbers, right? We see in season 2, we doubled kind of just like the distribution, the viewership, the listeners of the podcast, even people watching clips, like those essentially doubled. So the actual viewership that people were reaching, the impressions, all of that is growing. We feel it. We feel it in discovery calls. We feel it when we're at events and people come up to us and are like, I've seen all the stuff you guys are doing, right? I can probably actually tie it back literally to a handful of deals, but I know for a fact that it has influenced probably every deal that's come to us in some way, shape, or form. LinkedIn is our number one lead source.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a demand gen marketer yet. We're not really running ads. And so that tells me that if they're seeing us on LinkedIn, odds are they're seeing our podcast content, or at least something that Josh and I are talking about, most likely. And they're coming to us through that because it spoke to them in some way. So we don't really do a ton of attribution on the podcast. We have a couple of alerts set up in our call recordings that might tell us like they've heard about it, or they've listened to it, or saw a clip, or they know us because of it. But it feels like I don't know, not a great use of time to try and like map that out.
Yeah. I mean, my theory is, and Josh, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. My pet theory is that all the companies who do great marketing, the CEO either just lets the marketing person just run because they're like, I trust you and you're the, or they just kind of get it in the sense of like, yeah, if we do this podcast and it's fun and it's engaging and we talk about marketing topics, that will probably reach marketers and help us in some way, build awareness. Can we perfectly draw a line to like, this person listened to a podcast, therefore they closed into a deal 2 months later? Probably not, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that's like the hard thing about hard things, right? Is like the things that work the most are the hardest to measure. And frankly, like it's the scariest part about being at a company that's growing, right? Like we talked about this at our company kickoff. We introduced our leadership principles and we called them unculture values instead of culture values. And it's all the things that we don't believe in as much as the things that we do believe in. And one of the things that we don't believe in is measuring absolutely everything. And as a company gets bigger, it has this tendency to want to introduce concepts of control, right? Like attribution is actually just a mechanism of control. It's so that somebody 5 layers removed from the campaign can prove that their dollars are going towards something. But that means that you only have dollars to the things that you can measure, which means what? Your emails go to ads and cold email only, right? You'll never invest in content or founder brand because you can't exactly measure them, and that's a mistake.
Yeah. Andrew asks, what are the best tried and true strategies, tactics for using your marketing or content to quickly scale podcast reach and audience? I guess he's asking for like how to best grow a podcast.
So a couple things. One, my goal isn't really to grow like subscribers of the podcast. If that happens, that's amazing. My goal is just bring more people in to like see a clip. We do this little thing where I create like these little, I call them comics, and that's the thing that Josh and I usually post to promote each new episode. Is like it's kind of like 3 little strips. It's like a quick back and forth of something funny that happened on the podcast, and I found that those just perform way better than posting a video clip, right? And so I think it's finding ways to like get people interested in what you have to say. I don't think it hurts that Josh and I have decently sized followings where we can be kind of the distribution arm of each episode. And I've also found that like even if someone just sees a clip or just sees one of those comics, they can still be like self-proclaimed fans of your brand from that one piece of
Mhm.
content. So this is something that I actually learned from Devin Reed, who is, you know, the reader, and he was head of content at Gong and Clary, and he had been on YouTube for a while, and I asked him like, "What's something you've learned that really surprised you about being on YouTube?" I'm like trying to get better at it, and he was like, "People see a clip." And then they'll come up to me like, "I love your show." And he'll be like, "Amazing. Like, what's your favorite episode?" And they're like, "Actually, I guess I've only seen the clips, but they're so good."
Mhm.
Right. And so in their minds, like they're immediately fans after just seeing that bit of content. So I think part of it is just finding kind of the most intriguing, interesting, insightful moments and just really finding ways that you can get those out to your audience. Shorts are huge right now. We get more views on shorts than anything else. We get, I don't know.
On your YouTube channel.
Yeah, on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
I'm not great at math, so you know, tons of X's, X, on shorts than we do on like the full episode, and I'm totally fine with that. If seeing a couple of clips gets people into our universe, I've done my job.
Interesting. By the way, I posted one of those comics that you mentioned into the chat. The last one you posted
Yeah.
was a month ago, so I think
I'm slacking. Is that what you're
you're
saying? I
slacking
know.
us. Yeah, no,
New episode
interest.
comes out next week.
Okay,
I'll
fair
post.
enough. Fair enough.
There you
Okay,
go.
fair enough. Um, Irina, I saw you had questions. We'll get to LinkedIn in a minute. Um, it's almost like I heard Tim Ferriss talk about that, which to me is like the OG podcaster. It's almost two different audiences who will consume your long form podcast and who will consume your shorts. The reason why he actually doesn't post any shorts for his podcast is because he is interested in subscribers for his
Mhm.
podcast.
Mhm.
And he said there's almost no translation from a clip of the podcast going viral and people actually checking out the
Mm.
long form
Mm.
podcast, which is counterintuitive, right? You think like, oh, I posted a 1 minute clip from this podcast and it went viral. Tons of people must go and check out the long form podcast now. And he
Mhm.
said he just doesn't see that in the data.
But
Yeah.
it's also points at the misalignment between goals of different content formats, right? Like
Yep.
Hmm.
he wants subscribers. We don't really care about subscribers, right? We want this
Yep.
like general awareness and pull, right? So that the
Yep.
next time they think about like, huh, how do I better target my ads? They're like, ah, I remember Vector, regardless of what format or subscriber status they are.
Yep.
Um, by the way, I know we're gonna get to it. Arena's comments about like the company page are really interesting because
Okay,
like
well, let's
I
dive
like
into it. If you're excited about it, let's do it. So
lit up
Irina
when I
well,
saw her
asked,
question.
yeah, I want Jess to like sprint to this one, and Arena, I see that she has her camera on, so maybe she can participate. But just the immediate thing I saw when sort of looking through the questions was the company page thing, which is funny because we have had zero success with our company page. Like we've grown followers, right? But it has delivered nothing for us. Like
mhm.
almost all of our success has been like the personal brands that the individuals at the companies have carried it for it. Jess, I don't know if you would add anything there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think again, when I first started, which has almost been a year, which is wild. And when I first started, I was like, okay, one of the first things we need to work on is like Josh and Nick, we need you posting on LinkedIn very consistently. They were already posting, but it was like, you know, they're busy, they're founders, like when they have time, when they have an idea. And so I set up some workflows, some AI workflows where like every other week I interview them for about 30 minutes. I take all of the transcripts and I have trained like a Claude project on both of their separate voices and their posting styles and structures.
Yep.
And I run those things through there. And so it is their words, it is everything they have said. It's just written in a way that feels native to LinkedIn. And so every other week, I'm handing them like 4 or 5 posts. And when I first started that, I was like, you know, this is something we could do forever. Like this is I can just keep doing this. This is a really great kind of motion. And that was my goal, was just like get them excited to post. And now it's funny because we're doing it less and less because they have gotten so good just over the
Mhm.
past year of like seeing that content, posting stuff. and of course they're like taking it, they're making edits to make it feel more that like them, or like they're working on hooks, right? They've gotten to the point now where like we can do that less and less because they've just really gotten into the swing. And I don't think when I first started, my goal was like, oh, I hope I get to the point where I don't really have to do this for them anymore. But we've really gotten there because you guys have just gotten so good at it. The other side of that is the company page. And I will tell you, I post nothing natively on the company page.
I saw,
Every
yep.
single post on the company page is a repost of something that Josh, Nick, myself, someone else on the team says, an influencer has said, and we repost. Um, I think the most growth that we get on our company page, more followers following Vector, is simply because of our content. And this is a fun one, me commenting as the Vector Ghosty on other people's posts.
Yes.
So
So
I
it's you.
kind
Oh
of,
my
it's
God.
me, guys.
No, it's a ghost. Um, so for context, for those that don't know, like Vector introduced, like, we have a very fun and loose brand, which I know doesn't work for everyone, but for ours in particular, we have a ghost as a mascot. And this started very organically, right, Jess? I think we had like one on our website at one point, and it was like on this like subheader where it was like reveal the ghosts that are like clicking your
Mm.
ads or something like that. And all the marketers that we were speaking to, they're like, we would go through the website and they're like, that's so cute. And we're like, oh, they like it. And so we just like started introducing more and more ghosts until eventually we introduced it as our mascot. And Jess, like, you personified it. So anytime someone talks about us, like, you superimpose yourself as Ghosty and respond through Ghost's voice, which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. So I'll be like, hey boo, I'm into this. Or like once sometimes Josh will post and I'll be like, thanks, Dad. Because Josh was actually the one who like created
Oh my
Vector
God,
and
that's
created the ghost. So like he's really silly. He's a little like sassy, and I think people like that. So yeah, it's I have tried at multiple companies to get the company page working really hard, and I have found this is just the best way to do it. Get your people to power that page.
yeah. Yeah, I had Peter Kang on the podcast who runs social at Clay, and they obviously have a massive page. They have over 100,000 followers. And to him, it's kind of like once you reach a certain scale, like you guys can maybe post once a day on LinkedIn on your profile, right? But at some point, you have so much community stuff going on, events, and people posting about it, that there's just no way that you as the CEO can give personal love to every single person talking about
Yeah.
your brand. And you
Yeah.
want to have this big platform so that your users, your fans, your people feel like when they talk about Clay, they get reshared to this massive page, and it's kind of like it feels good, and they can do
Yeah.
that 7 times a day, right?
Yeah.
Because
It's
they're not
smart.
worried about other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this like you guys just have taste. I think that's why this whole thing works. You guys just like I think it just wouldn't work if the marketer had to pitch to their CEO of like, I have this idea for this mascot and I want to like write sassy comments under people's thing. And then it's like, why would you want to do that? And how are we going to measure that? And, who's going to write these messages and how are we going to approve them? Like all of that will kill that in its tracks. And you guys just kind of do things, but you do them in a way where like, yeah, just saying thanks, Dad, on the CEO's post from the ghost that is the mascot of the company. That just, that I guess that is what people mean when they say taste.
I think it's
Yeah.
I,
Um,
I think it's funny because I think no matter what kind of brain you have, whether you're like a super analytical CEO that wants to measure everything, or you're a creative, both of those, if you think hard enough about them, should arrive at the same destination. And what I mean by that
hmm,
is like if you're a creator, like you want to have fun with your brand anyways, right? You want to challenge the molds, you want to break it, you want to do something that feels different. But also if you're analytical, like this is why I believe in marketing, right? Like it is now easier than ever to start a company. Thanks, Cursor. Thanks, Lovable, right? It is now easier than ever to distribute messages about those new companies. Thanks, Clay, right? Which,
hmm,
if you combine these two big forces that are having in the market or that are happening in the market, it means that there has never been more noise than ever in the channels that businesses are trying to play in, right? And so when you think about the channels that you can play in, what are the channels that have the lowest barrier to entry, lowest cost to entry? Email,
Mm.
like phone calls, right? Like what's the most expensive things? Advertising, building a real brand, right? Like these things are hard. There's not things that like you can just spin up overnight. And so I don't know, even if you're analytical, I think you should be investing and believing in those things that are hard because that's the stuff everyone else will fray away from.
I'm curious because you mentioned, Jess, that you were interviewing Josh, I think you said every 2 weeks, and then providing him with a couple posts. And now, Josh, you kind of can do a lot of it on your own.
Yeah.
Maybe as someone who is not a marketer,
Yeah.
what do you know now about LinkedIn and content and what it takes to create posts and stand out that you didn't know 9 months ago when Jess had to spoon feed you every single thing?
I think one is just like showing up consistently is the thing that she taught me the most, right? Like I'll have a post that fails, I'll have a post that does really well, and like you just never know unless you do it every single day. And I think that's like fear number one for founders that
Mm.
are trying to create content is just this like, oh, what am I going to say? And what are people going to think? And, you know, I've got people that I used to work with, they're going to see I get 3 likes and that's going to be embarrassing. And it's just like that friction you're feeling is the exact reason you should do it because it's what's stopping probably 90% of other people from doing it themselves. So she just showed me that that would work. And then obviously once she sort of spoon fed me and we started seeing form submissions that say like, oh, I saw you on LinkedIn, you start to get addicted to the dopamine. You're like, oh
Mm.
my gosh, this actually works. And so you're no longer forcing yourself. You have the incentive to do it because I know every time I post, the channel for demo submission starts to light up. And then I think the last thing she taught me is just how to be more aware of what good content is. Like we're surrounded by it more often than we think we are. And so now I have a Google Doc where I'll just be going about my day and I'll be like, you know, like, well, I'll be talking to someone on the team and we'll say like, oh, we've got a new role that we're hiring. And someone will say like, hey, should we post it on our careers page? And I'll be like, we don't have a careers page. And I'm like, oh, that's great content. We should talk about like the fact that like we've never had a careers page because we're building sort of a company that we like are really methodical about building, right? Like that's something that just
Yeah.
happens in the day to day of my life that like when I thought about it slightly differently, I'm like, that's probably great content that I could write about.
Who separately currently like inspires you or gives you lots of ideas, unproportional amount of ideas?
Yeah, that's interesting. So here's like good feedback for myself. As I've gotten busier, I've not been a great student, right? Like, and I think this is maybe the other part of content is like I think a big part of the algorithm is like also engaging with others, right? And I don't do super good at that, right? Like a buddy of mine, Mike Wolber, who I do enjoy his content. He's in the C-suite at
Mark Wahlberg? Wow.
no, not the actor. I
Yeah.
wish. Mike Wilbur, he's CRO at apartmentlist.com and he posted something recently where I think it was like 58% of all of his like followers came from comments that he left, and only like 40 some came from like his post itself. And so I need to get better at that side of the game. I don't know outside of like the ones that Jess could mention, like Devin Reed and Taz Bober, right? Like I'm surrounded by those sort of creators, and so I take a lot of inspiration from them. But I need to be more of a student of the game, I think.
Who are your favorites right now, Jess?
My top number one right now, who everything she posts I save, is Dasha Shaka from Proton.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
She's incredible. She's just kind of recently in the last year or so decided she was like, I'm gonna do this LinkedIn thing, and she is crushing it. Like every single one of her posts is
Yep.
so good and so insightful. And so I've learned a lot from her, generally just like in like as a marketing leader, but also just like how to create really good LinkedIn content. And I will tell you too,
I think what's even
LinkedIn will,
more interesting about her, this is actually not at all to criticize. I think it's she actually uses quite a bit of AI for her content. You can sometimes see it in the formatting and stuff. And I think that's almost more impressive because most
yeah.
people who leverage AI for their content is just garbage.
It's so human. It's so good. And if you, I've met her multiple times, and that like the way that it is written is how she
Yeah.
is and how she talks.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's doing an amazing job. And I think if you pay attention, like LinkedIn will tell you what's important to it. And by that I mean like just recently they started showing you how many impressions you're getting on comments,
Hmm.
which is a cue to me that comments are a very important part of the algorithm now. And they want
Mm.
people to know that, right? They now have kind of the mobile video view that's very different than any other video view, which to me says like that mobile video view, like if you are dropping 9:16 videos on there, like that's gonna push you up in the algorithm, right? So if you pay attention, it changes every day, but if you pay attention and you're looking at these things, like you can kind of find what's important to them or what they feel is important or what they're testing and capitalize on that.
I agree with all of it except the vertical video. I don't see it in the numbers.
They say it's
They
like
say, I know.
but I'm with you. That's why I started doing those comics, Finn, because it was like, well, they're saying it's big and I can't get it to hit.
Well, the vertical pictures, I don't know, but vertical videos is still tough for me.
I bet it's something that they want to take off, and probably the algorithm does incentivize it. But I bet the users, like, I don't go to LinkedIn the way I go to YouTube Shorts to mindlessly scroll. So I'm guessing they're just not having success in what they would like.
That's my analysis. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, we only have 15 minutes left. Let's dive a little bit into how Vector uses Vector. So I don't know if you can screen share or show anything, but I'm really curious. What are the kind of most robust, evergreen, best performing things, and could be something completely boring, how you guys use Vector internally?
Yeah. Well, so a couple things. I mentioned earlier, we went through all of 2025 without a proper demand gen marketer on our team. And we are remedying this next week. We have a demand gen marketer starting. And I'm so excited. And so I think that person is really going to build this. What does the playbook of Vector on Vector look like? Like what is the best version of using our own product to build ad audiences of only ICP fit, best fit kind of contacts? What does that look like? In lieu of that this year, we did use Vector to build some audiences that just felt like low-hanging fruit, right? People would come to the blog or our playbooks or case studies, editorial content, and we would funnel all those people into an ad audience, and we would put an ad in front of them that was like, is your inbox haunted? Would you like it to be? And it was, like the ghost and like sign up for the newsletter kind of thing. Right. So it was like, let's take the behaviors they're showing us, they're interested in content, and get them into a world where they're getting more content from us. We did competitive type ads where it was like, we know they're searching for our competitors. Let's put some sort of comparison ad in front of them about our competitors and why they choose us, or why most people choose us. And we can figure out exactly who those contacts are and put those ads directly in front of them. But I think the thing that makes the difference is the creative. Like you can go on LinkedIn right now and see 16 ads in a row that have like some sort of abstract shape and background and sans serif font with a bunch of like corporate jargon on it. Or like you might see something like what I'm about to show you. I should have been more prepared with the share here. So this was an ad that we ran during Halloween. We did a big Halloween launch. I love the idea of a ghost digging a grave. I don't know. There's something very like that scratches the right part of my brain for that. This ad performed really well. It was our top performing ad. I think we had like 12 different versions of kind of a Halloween theme and line, and this one did really well. This one here is actually, this was a video. I just took a still of it where this little unicorn floaty kind of floated out of the pool, and it looked like it was breaking through the LinkedIn feed. And that one, actually, I think that was our top performing video ad of the entire year, simply because I think it got people to be like, wait, what's happening? Like, what? How is it breaking the feed, right? And it was just kind of this simple like trick of the eye in the video.
And when you say best performing, is this based on CTR or based on like some down funnel, I don't know, sign up rates or?
Yeah, based on a couple things, based on click-through rate, based on engagement rate, based on just like the comments on this. Like people don't comment on ads, and there were a wall of comments on this. I was like, this one got me. This is so cool. Or they would tag another marketer to be like, check this ad out. I think that for us is like such a compliment.
Jess, one thing that you and I talk about a lot, like Finn, to your question, you asked like, how do we know it's working really well, right? And then, typically you hear a lot of marketers throw out, oh, what is how many dollars did or and opportunities were generated, right? And for those of you listening that don't know, Vector's whole like what we do is contact level advertising, right? We build contact level ad audiences and we do contact level ad reveal. So someone clicks an ad, even if they don't fill out a form, we know who it was. You can surface that to your sales team or whatnot. And so because we have this technology where like on LinkedIn, it's easy to do contact level targeting because, LinkedIn knows people by title, et cetera. But like when you get to Reddit or Google search, that's difficult to do. But because we have our own technology where we can hyper target very specific people, even without LinkedIn's native targeting in Google and Reddit, we're actually able to think about ads very differently than most. Like we don't think about how many of these created dollars for us. Like Jess was talking to me about this the other day where she's like, I think about our ads as like another step in the nurture process, right?
Mhm.
So like when she's sitting with other CMOs and they're talking about, hey, what does your nurture look like this year? All the other CMOs are like, well, I guess we'll collect emails and we'll do some newsletter drips, right? Jess is like, oh, we're gonna put them in a 12 touch ad nurturing sequence, right? And it's just about sort of furthering their journey and their awareness with us. And so we invest a lot more at the top of funnel with ads than others probably would.
Do you guys do anything with thought leader ads?
Oh yeah. Josh had one that crushed.
Okay.
I did. Do you have that one, Jess, in this deck or no?
Jess is out of the office.
Oh, did
I,
you?
I
Did
remember
that?
that one.
That one was
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have it here, but essentially this was Josh did a post about how it was like using an ABM tool is like going to the gym and not using weights.
Hmm.
And it was this whole kind of thing. And then I commented on it with like this silly gif of like a guy just like eating a sandwich, standing amongst all of the workout gear at the gym, right? And that comment like took off, which is hilarious. Anyway, we saw it like blowing up organically. And so we were like, let's use this as one of our thought leadership ads. And I think it had an 18% click-through rate, which
Wow.
is like when
Yeah.
you're trying to hit 0.5% on LinkedIn is mind-blowing. So yeah, we do a lot of thought leadership. We let kind of the organic engagement on it guide us as to whether or not it's something we want to put dollars behind. It's not always about the product. We just want people to understand that like we're very smart and passionate about what we're doing. And that oftentimes will lead a lot of people to want to know more about what you're working on.
Do you guys have any like connection with the LinkedIn team, given that you guys integrate with them and all of that? One thing that I'm still waiting on, and I don't know why they don't do this, because I think people would spend a lot more money on their platform, is if you
Yeah.
could retarget natively the people who engage with the organic posts. Like if
Yeah.
if if you guys post and over the last 30 days you posted 30 times and you got 1,000 likes and comments,
Yeah.
LinkedIn Ad Manager should give you an option to retarget those 1,000 engagers.
I think it
Yeah.
should too, to the point that that's actually on our product roadmap this year. So
Okay. You can
we're
scrape them, but technically that's against terms of service.
Yeah.
So.
yeah, if you have a LinkedIn partnership, which we do, you can leverage their API to get your organic interactions, both on the paid and organic posts, both company and employee owned. And then, ideally, LinkedIn would just build this functionality, which would allow you to
Yeah.
build a retargeting audience. They don't have that capability. Maybe someday they will. But with Vector, we can be able to pull in that engagement data and then sort of rebuild contact level audiences with that. So that'll be really cool.
I'm gonna go through comments here. See if you guys we have 9 minutes left with Jess and Josh. So if you guys have any question that you want to ask or that I skipped, Andrew, I saw that you commented a bunch of things, but I think it was partly I am leaning on a social organic a lot.
I think his
This
comment
was
about Reddit is smart. We're seeing a
Yeah.
lot of really smart marketers figure out how to leverage Reddit both organically and for paid advertising that is
it
light years
feels like a
ahead.
lot of people just because it feeds into the LLM
Yes.
responses they're going hard on. I saw a
Yep.
bunch of companies do like an AMA with their CEO, which is a
Hmm.
smart way to generate a bunch of Reddit content about your company and product.
It's true. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
be a big CEO, I guess. So the
Yeah.
CEO of Clio do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I can tell you something else that is not ads, that's not social, that we're investing in this year is micro events.
mm,
We're going to actually spin up our own series, and we're going to kind of put them on the calendar around
Bigger
a
events.
handful of events
Hmm.
we're already going to be at. Exactly. And our version, because again, like we do everything a little bit differently, is we're calling it the Ghost Tour. So we're going to go to these events and we're going to kind of hand select some people who are prospects, great fits that are already there. We're going to invite them out to dinner, and then we're all going to go on like a walking ghost tour, kind of lean into the mascot a little bit.
Mm.
There's going to be like almost like concert merch with like all the cities on the back that everyone will get, right? And so we're hoping it'll be something that people are talking about, excited to be at, kind of have FOMO if they didn't get to be at it, want to be at the next one, kind of thing. So that we're really excited about that. We dipped our toe into events and kind of like micro events like that this past year, and it worked out really, really well for us. In fact, every single prospect that was at that dinner, we have now like have a closed one deal with. So
Wow. Every single one. How
yeah,
many were there?
every single one.
There's a lot.
Uh, there was a lot. So I think we had
10,000 people.
like 16, no, we had 16 seats at this dinner, not including Vector folks. We filled not quite half of them with customers, so we could kind of seat them
Yep, smart.
strategically and get them to talk. So I would say there were 8 or 9 prospects there. And over the course, that was in September, and over the course between September through, I actually think just at the end of last year, we closed our final prospect that was happened to be at that
What have
dinner.
you learned about follow-up? Like, how do you follow up with them?
That's a great question. I don't think we've nailed that yet. That it's funny. This morning we actually dropped some follow-up content for sales from our live podcast yesterday,
Hmm.
and I was so happy because it's something I really want to get good at this year. It's something we kind of dropped the ball on last year. It was like really solid handoff and follow-up from these events. So yeah, I don't think it's something we've nailed yet. I really want to do a great job of arming sales with like what was talked about, who was most interested, what are their pain points, what did we learn about them, like what angles can we take that we can kind of like get on their level and talk about when you follow up with them. So these are all things I want to start documenting as part of the handoff with sales.
I recently went to an event I got invited to. They sell agency software, so I was an ICP. And they did something I felt like it was smart. They do a lot of events. They're quite big, so I know that the program itself is successful. The way that they did it is it started out with so first the pitch is like, hey, be invited to this fancy dinner with a bunch of other agency owners. Cool, you get to exchange, industry insights. They started it with kind of like an industry keynote about like here's what we're seeing in our own data. So it was more like thought leadership. That one I found kind of useful for myself. Then the dinner, it was a really good dinner. And then what they did is they were like the first 2 courses get served at the restaurant.
Mm.
The third course, dessert, will serve downstairs.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
downstairs was it was basically the pitch. And so, but the way that they did the pitch was they basically did a walkthrough of the product, and the walkthrough was done by a customer.
Mm.
mhm.
That's
So they
cool.
brought a customer, they talked, it was basically a case study.
Hmm.
I felt like it was kind of smart. It's also kind of hacky a little bit,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
like I know for sure that these events are super profitable for them because they do them like every week, 3 of them like at scale, right? So
Yeah.
it's an
I
Yeah.
always
interesting way
struggle.
to make people stick around and
I think it's smart and obviously it's working for them. I always struggle with the close in those sort of environments because I feel like the beauty of in-person events is they're supposed to be organic, right? They're supposed to feel like, hey, let's have a real conversation and I'll tell you what we're up to. And if what we're up to is interesting to you, I know you'll reach out to me on LinkedIn when we all get
Yeah.
home, right? Like
yeah,
I really struggle with the
yeah.
the close and I think that might be for better than for worse, but maybe this goes to Andrew's question, right? He asked like when it comes to like board metrics and actually measuring things, right? Because not everything can be soft and
Abby.
touchy-feely and vibey. Yeah. Jim Stoneham, who was the previous CMO of Stripe and then the previous CMO of New Relic, is on our board. He's now an advisor over at Signal Fire, which is one of our investors, and he he gave me really good framing. When Jess first presented her first budget to me, he gave me some great framing that I think you can actually, as a marketer, reverse back when you do budgets. He basically said, like, there are no no's in marketing. There are only things that we already know are working and things that we should try to experiment with.
Mm.
And so for podcasting, when Jess brought it to me, it's something that we didn't know was a yes. So it wasn't a no, but it was an experiment, right? And so I think first and foremost, just like whenever you ask for budget, framing it that way, framing like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work, but like I think we should experiment because like we need pipeline. Like opening from the perspective of like I'm doing this for the company, not because like I personally am excited about doing a podcast. It's like always really great framing and like allows like an executive to lean forward into the conversation. And then, then it's just math, right? It's like honestly, I think we spent more money editing the podcast than we did actually like recording it and getting down to it. I think we spend I don't know, 20 grand a season all in between, 5 grand of recording and getting to a location and another 15 grand or whatever in editing or whatever. And so like when you look at it that way, it's like, all right, 20 grand, it's not no money, but it's not a ton of money either. And at our ASP of, $36,000, like as a CEO and my board, we need one opportunity
Right.
to close right
Yeah.
from this to prove that this worked.
Yeah.
And then we know that like half the time we get opportunities that are influenced but hard to attribute, and then half the time we get form submissions that say I heard from you from the podcast, right? So I don't know. I think that if you can approach marketing with that framing of like not everything's measurable, but we know that the math probably maths here, like let's give it a shot is a good way to approach it.
Jess, I appreciate you answering some comments in the chat, multitasking. We're
Yes,
going
of
to wrap
course.
up here now. Allison said, I used to work at Sony Pictures and I worked on Walk Hard. We did concert tees for the press tour and people loved them. Your Ghost Tour shirts are going to be huge. There you go. All right. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun too.
This is so fun, Ben. Thank you.
Jess and Josh, thank you for taking the time. And then everyone else also, thank you for joining. I know everyone's busy these days, so it really means a lot. If you joined late, it will be on our podcast, all of those good things later on. And that's it. Peace out.
Great.
Thank
Great
you
to see
guys.
all of you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. All right, this podcast is brought to you by Project 33. Project 33 is the leading executive thought leadership agency for LinkedIn. If you're looking to activate your founder, your CEO, your executives, or any of your internal subject matter experts and create thought leadership content for them to build trust and credibility for your brand, reach out at project33.io.